Hey, everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Interstate Batteries has been a proud supporter of the Sportsman's Nation since day one. With over 200,000 locations throughout the U.S. and offering 12,000 different types of batteries, stop into your local Interstate Battery store today and let them help you find the right batteries for your everyday life.
And for me, number one, it is family. I mean, it's like I can't do any of this if I'm sacrificing really what's important in life. But if I build that right, and my wife and I we're a partnership, and I'm supporting her and the things she wants to do, and I'm providing for her, and I got all, and my kids are fathered, and I mean, it's like all this stuff is in order. Yeah. Then Clay can be gone for 18 days, like I have been this month.
I had an old Fred Bear hat. I mean, I was a little chubby kid with a Fred Bear hat on always.
The dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately.
Yeah, that's a really good way to say it.
I've been waiting for 28 episodes of this podcast to say that.
Yeah. And usually I say go do a black bear hunt. If you're gonna go guided, go on a black bear hunt. It's affordable, and it's fun.
My name is Clay Newcomb, and I'm the host of the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast. I'll also be your host into the world of hunting the icon of North American wilderness, the bear. We'll talk about tactics, gear, conservation, but we'll also bring you into some of the wildest country on the planet, chasing bear.
Welcome to the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast. I believe the date is May the 16th, and we are in British Columbia, Canada. We are at Jeff Lander's camp, Primitive Outfitting, would you guys say we're in central British Columbia?
I haven't even looked at a map.
I have no idea where we are.
That's you
terrible.
Guys don't even know.
I know we're like 50 yards from that railroad track and 70 from the kitchen.
I bet if you got on that railroad track, you would end up in like Kansas City.
No doubt.
And then from Kansas City, you could probably get home.
Depending on how fast the train was that hit you, I guess, is where you landed.
Well, we are in British Columbia, and I did look at a map, and I would describe this as central eastern British Columbia, Canada, kind of more to the east.
I got you.
This is the 6th day of our black bear hunt, and I've got with me here in the, what do they call this cabin? What does Aaron call this cabin?
He calls it his happy place. I don't know what they call it. It's his favorite place in the world because his phone doesn't work here.
Yeah, it does not work here. No, we're at so Jeff at Primitive Outfitting. They've got a super nice, like I wouldn't call it a lodge, but a nice camp where a lot of the guys stay. But then there's these like outer bunkhouses that were probably built in the 60s. I don't know when this was built, but that's where we're at right now. And Aaron we're talking about is Aaron Snyder. He hunts up here a lot, and Jake's a good friend of Aaron's. But so let me introduce my guests. I've got with me Brent Reeves, who's been on the podcast several times. Brent's job is just to sip his coffee, try not to make slurping noises, and to just like maybe comment like I'm kidding, Brent.
Noted.
No. Brent's, you're supposed to say stuff like, chili today, hot tamale.
I've already used that one.
That's the kind of stuff you're supposed to say.
I've got more.
Okay. So, y'all know Brent, but Jake Downs. I just met Jake this week, and Jake is I'm going to let Jake, well, this conversation is going to be a lot about Jake, but Jake is an accomplished traditional archer, a young man. Jake's 31. I guessed him a little bit older by the amount of critters that he stacked up with that trad bow. But no, Jake, tell us just a little bit about yourself, just like where you're from and kind of what's going on.
Yeah, no, I'm from a little town, Shatter, Nebraska, northwest Nebraska. I'm an electrician there. My wife, Lana, and I got a little 2-year-old, Alexa. And we pretty much live outdoors. It's my life. And I'm super lucky. Like I said, my wife is a big part of why I get to do what I get to do, because she supports me and takes care of everything while I'm gone. And I got brothers that work for me. I own my own business, so I can work hard when I need to and play hard when I want to. So it works pretty good.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Now well, let's see. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get into this. So you've taken the Super 10 with a traditional bow. Mm-hmm. And you said something the other day while we were out there shooting. You said that, so the perception of someone that gets to travel and hunt, and for clarification, the Super 10, let's talk about what the Super 10 is. The Super 10 is basically it's a way to describe taking the 10 species kind of big game animals in North America, which would be what? Tell us what the Super 10 is.
I've said this a bunch of times, but I'll just list them off. Basically, so the 29 is all big game animals recognized by Pope and Young or whatever. So it's one out of every subspecies. So it's one deer, one elk, one bear, one moose, one caribou, mountain lion, antelope, and then you got sheep, goats, mountain goat, and then what am I missing?
The bison.
Yep, bison or muskox.
Bison or muskox.
Yep.
So the 29 big game species in North America would be all those, but inside of like moose, there's like 3 different types of moose. There's Canada moose, Shiras moose, and Yukon moose. Yep. So the Super 10 just says, hey, just harvest one of those animals.
It gives guys something to shoot for. You know, the 29 it becomes a rich man's game. Not necessarily, but I mean there are some like polar bear, stone sheep, some stuff that it's just not realistic. I mean, I'm not saying I could never get there.
Right.
I may be mortgaging the house to do it. Who knows? But I'd never want to cut myself off of a goal or whatever. Not that I'm going after that, but it just gave me something to shoot for. I was about halfway there, and I was like, hey, I'll just keep.
Yeah.
And I like going to new places, new things. So
yeah. Well, so getting to the point now that we've defined what the Super 10 is, and what you said to me was that, typically, or the stereotype would be that would be a rich man's game to be able to do all those things. But you said if a guy can be disciplined, if he can plan ahead, and pay for some, because some of these hunts you have to be guided on.
Yeah.
Some of them you draw for, and you work hard for the draws. But I mean, basically, you've played the system very well and have succeeded.
Yeah.
I mean, inside of now, which of those hunts did you have to be guided on?
Technically, I mean, the mountain goat I was guided on, and that I had to be.
No, that was in Alaska.
That was in Alaska. I could have obviously waited and drawn that tag, maybe.
Like in Idaho or
I could have. You
Colorado.
You never know. Colorado. I sent in for all those states, but point creep's gotten so bad. I'm young enough that I didn't start early enough that It's not really.
You mean you didn't start putting in when you were 9 years old?
No, I didn't. My dad used to take us hunting, we'd do that, but I didn't really start doing the points until I was almost 20. So I was kind of out of the game. You can always get lucky, but I just, decided, like I told you, just some of these hunts you can just book in advance a couple years. Usually good outfitters are booked out at least a year or two in advance anyway.
Yeah.
So the bison I was guided on because of that reason. The bison I was guided on, and that would be a really tough one to get without a guide, but you can do it.
Right.
Arizona, you can draw a tag, and there's some other spots that are.
There's only the ones, and I'm by no means an expert, but there are, I believe, 3 wild bison herds. One in Alaska, one in Alberta. I think Pink Mountains in Alberta.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But there's a few. There are places where you can hunt bison.
Yeah. A guy could actually do it. The place to live would be Colorado to do it because they've got the Big 8, which is, of course, they're missing caribou. What else?
So Colorado has 8 of them.
Well, they don't.
If
have
you count
8.
the bison, which there's some places that are considered free range bison.
No,
in Colorado
they don't have any. I mean that is a free range. But that would be a guided hunt because that's a ranch. There is no draw on bison in Colorado, but they're Big 8. I think they consider a whitetail and a mule deer in that. So there's 2 deer on the Big 8. Because I believe they're missing. Well, I know they're missing caribou.
They'd have the mountain lion,
bison. Yeah, they'd have everything except for caribou, bison. I mean, as far as drawing it, that might be it, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's doable. If you budget your time and budget your. I'm in no way making minimum wage. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is when I started, I was working. I think honestly, I was making like $13 an hour, $12 an hour, and I was just like, I want to go bear hunting. So I just booked a $2,000 bear hunt and paid on it for a couple of years and went bear hunting. And that was what opened my eyes. I was like, man, you can do this.
Bear was the first one you went on.
Bear, yes, Bear was the first.
I think that's notable on the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast.
Yeah.
For real, because black bear really is probably the most accessible.
It is.
Traveling guided hunt because of the opportunity. There are bears everywhere. The hunts are relatively inexpensive.
Yep.
And the seasons happen at a time in the spring when not much else is going on. So
I tell people that all the time. People ask me, what do I do? I've killed antelope and deer. I wanted something else. I want something new. What should I go do? And usually I say, go do a black bear hunt. If you're gonna go guided, go on a black bear hunt. It's affordable, and it's fun. Like, this is a spot and stock hunt. And I love it. This is fun. It's fun to sneak on bears, but I'll be honest, it's fun to sit and watch bears come to you. I mean, I have no problems with baited hunts. I've sat on bait for long hours and not seen it. I sat for my very first hunt. I went to Idaho, and I sat for a full week and never saw a bear. Never laid eyes on a bear. I always joke because there was actually a blind guy in camp. And I always say
he
that
saw more bears than you.
What I say is there's 2 guys in camp that didn't see a bear, and one guy shot one. 'Cause he shot a bear. So
did he?
Yeah, his guide sat behind him and lined him up. I mean,
wow,
it's
that's
crazy.
cool.
So it wasn't like I went to a bad spot. I made a good friend with the guide there. The outfit changed names. I've never been back there, but yeah, I mean, people get you can come up to Canada and you can go to some places that's just crawling with bears, but you can also, I've been in Canada, and one of the places I went, I didn't end up with a bear. I saw 2 bears in a week.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, do your research. If you're going to go bear hunting, maybe not look for the biggest deal out there, but
right.
Even those places a lot of times are good. And what's cool about bear hunting, you don't have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and walk your butt off.
Usually you're hunting the afternoons.
You're hunting the afternoons, and when you're in Canada, a lot of times you can go fishing. I mean, it's a family thing too. Take your family.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Your family can hang out in the cabin. There's a lot of places that have cabins that are really fun, right on the water. That was one place me and my dad went and fished all day. He caught fish and cooked it every night. I mean, it's. Bear hunting has got to be one of the most fun things to do, and there's nothing else to do in the spring,
right?
Other than turkeys, But if I got choice between turkeys and bears, I'll go, hunt bears. So
yeah, well, and it's awesome that you just said all that, because that's what we say all the time. Yeah. Is that what other big game animals can you hunt in the spring? Yep. What other big game animals are as widely distributed, and the opportunity is there? And geez, we found out and have experienced it again this week. This is a challenging hunt.
Yeah.
A challenging hunt. Mm-hmm. So before we jump into bears, because what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit more about your traditional archery hunting.
Sure.
But then I do want to talk about this week. So let's go back to the Super 10. So what got us there was, you said that the first outfitted traveling hunt you did outside of Nebraska was a bear hunt. Mm-hmm. So you took these animals with a traditional bow. When did you start traditional archery hunting? And what was that transition like? Because I think that's a lot of the questions a lot of people have. Lots of guys are shooting compound archery. I mean, almost everybody. There's very few people that are just rifle hunters anymore. I mean, everybody's got a compound bow. And more we're seeing people that are getting interested in traditional archery. It's becoming more mainstream to shoot trad bows. Yep. But the thing that messes with everybody's mind is if I go traditional, am I going to quit killing game?
Yeah.
So how do you make that transition? I know for me, for 10 years, I got my first trad bow early on, 2003 or something. And for 10 years, basically, I just I was on that fence of, I could carry this, but it's going to limit me so much. And, and at the time, I was just a young hunter, just happy to take game any way I could. So it's I wasn't quite ready to have that limitation. And then in the last 5 and 6 years, I've taken on that challenge more readily. But what was your transition like?
I'm extremely on the weird side, I guess. I've told that. So when I started bow hunting, when I was a kid, my dad bow hunted. He killed a bunch of big whitetails with a bow, and he shot a old, I don't even know what it was, old tiny wheel compound, no sights and with fingers.
Huh.
And so that's how I started, with a compound. That's how I killed my first deer, was with just a bare bow compound.
Tiny wheels, is that what they called you?
Tiny wheels. Yeah, that was my nickname. Well, so that's how I started. I killed my first few deer with that, and it was just a gradual. It took me a few years to kill my first deer. I think I might have been 15, 16. I don't know. You start when you're 12.
Yeah.
We hunted elk every year with muzzleloaders. I started out kind of that way, but I loved the bow. I can remember going elk hunting when I was 12 and taking my bow not to hunt elk with, but to shoot grouse or whatever. That was my thing, the bow. I had an old Fred Bear hat. I was a little chubby kid with a Fred Bear hat on always. My transition was weird. I killed my first couple of deer, and then when I was probably I don't know, I was probably 16-ish. I bought a Hoyt Game Master recurve because I think I was shooting Hoyt's compounds, and it just looked cool. You know, it had the machined riser. I was like, man, this is cool looking. I'm gonna try to be like Fred Bear. You know, that's what my theory was. So I started shooting it and struggling, and of course I did what everybody shouldn't do. I bought a 55-pound bow, and because I was shooting 60 pounds on my compound, I thought, well, heck, I can do this. So, so I struggled with it. I killed a rabbit with it, and I think I hunted with it for like a year, missed some deer, just had trouble, and sold it. Went back to, I'm not even sure I really went back to a compound. I kind of took some time off there, and then I finally was going to college and working, and bought another Game Master somewhere right around that 19. It all gets kind of blurry those years, but started shooting that, struggling again, and I did the same thing. I bought a heavy bow, and there wasn't an Aaron Snyder out there talking about tuning and how to actually work into it, and the clums out there where you could get on and watch, buy their video and actually learn form,
right? All
the good stuff that people have available to them these days. So I guess long-winded to answer your question, I am very strange. I worked from instinctively shooting, moved into a compound, because when I bought my,
so you started with kind of the instinctive shooting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think when I was a kid I might have had sights on my bow at one time or another, but I don't really remember having sights on my bow ever as a thing until I was about 20ish, and I had this recurve and I had some extra money, so I was like, all right. And I was, at this point, I'm a big fan of Fred Eichler, so he was kind of switching back and forth, so I was like, I'm going to buy a compound with sights and do all that, and then I can hunt with the recurve and the... I did find myself still, when I still hadn't killed much, going on an antelope stalk and having both in the truck and grabbing the recurve.
Yeah. It
was just something I knew I didn't have as good of a chance with it, but... it just, the recurve, I was drawn to it. I like the simplicity of it. It was just.
So you did some compound hunting then in your 20s then, is that right?
Yeah. And I still hunt with a compound now and then. This year I haven't done as much. Last year I killed a couple animals. Usually, for me it's kind of like my rifle hunt. I still don't.
There's times when you don't choose your weapon as the limiting factor. Right. That's the way that I describe some of my hunting. It's like sometimes a hunt, I don't want the weapon to be the limiting factor.
Right.
The animal, the terrain, maybe even the environment. I mean, maybe I'm going somewhere with friends and family, and they're rifle hunting, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. So you choose where you want that limiting factor to be.
Yeah, and it's funny, I have friends of mine that ask me, like, how do you choose what bow you're going to take? And I'm like, I don't know. I kill some stuff with the recurve. That's my main weapon. And then antelope, for a good example, in Nebraska. We don't have a lot of water holes. The terrain's pretty open. I got a few spots you can get pretty close, but not, pretty close being 40 yards. And I love eating antelope. So almost every year I grab the compound and I go shoot one. And that's one of those hunts where I just want an antelope.
To me, that was what we're describing here is the ability to move from weapon to weapon. And when I first got into traditional archery, the mentality was inside of like the hardcore traditionalist guys was that it's all or nothing. I mean, I literally had the guy that kind of mentored me, and a great man that I respect to this day and thank him for getting me into traditional archery. I mean, he was kind of like, and in some ways he was right. He was like, if you want to be proficient with a trad bow and actually do good, you got to go all trad. And I mean, I totally get that. But so I struggled with that because I wasn't ready to dive all the way in. But now I think what we're seeing is guys that you can move back and forth, and it's not just like the ultimate sin to move back and forth.
I tell guys all the time, like I've heard that one too, and I've heard I had one guy tell me that, well, he wasn't telling me, an outfitter told me about him. Apparently he was a terrible, terrible shot with a recurve, but that's what he wanted to hunt with. But he decided to shoot his recurve left-handed because he shot his compound right-handed. That was his, so he didn't mess up his form. Like
so he didn't mess up his form. That sounds like something Brent would do.
Yeah, y'all bet.
I've heard some crazy stuff, and to be honest, for me, I shoot my recurve every single day. For the most part. I mean, there's some days where work gets in the way and I just run out of daylight, but I'm probably the most hardcore recurve guy as anybody. I mean, I'm as good as
if you stuck with it on all the hunts that you have, no doubt. You're not.
I'm very hardcore traditional, but I get to go on enough hunts where it's still fun to pick up the compound. And for me, it doesn't change the way I hunt. I've only shot one animal past 35 yards with a compound.
Yeah.
And that was an antelope last year. So for me, I don't change the way I hunt. It just makes me, that 35-yard shot, 35, 40-yard shot, that's more of like a 20-yard shot with my stick bow. So it just makes me a shade more proficient. And I can pick up my compound and shoot at 40 yards. And I think that's, for me, it makes me a better shot with my compound because I don't, if I shoot my compound the way that I shoot my trad bow, and I'm not saying like grip it and rip it type of stuff, but if I just put that pin where I know I would be looking and just let the bow go off, it lands there.
What is the of all the Super 10, what was the toughest hunt?
I should have known you were going to ask me that.
I'll give you
mentally, or like some of the hunts were mentally tough, like the goat hunt. Yeah. That was very mentally tough because that was the most I'd ever spent on an animal as far as
because it was a guided hunt.
And it was mentally tough because the terrain was tough.
You were in Alaska.
I was in Alaska. We got rained out for 3 days, and so
there's three of your.
I think it was a 6 or 7 day hunt. So. That one was mentally tough knowing, and then also the fact that, and this is most cases, but if you wound one, you're done. If you draw blood, you're done. So I wanted a close shot. So that puts a lot of pressure on you to make a good shot and hope that it doesn't fall off a cliff to somewhere where you can't get it. I mean, that hunt was mentally tough because the pressure.
Yeah.
As far
as
actually
taking the goat was not as. You're seeing a lot of animals.
I'm not going to make light of it. We did see. I killed my goat on the second day of hunting. Full day of hunting. We hiked up the morning before, stalked a billy, got within 28, 29 yards, and I wanted to get just a little closer. Yeah. And it moved and caught my silhouette on a hill ridge top, and he was gone. And then the next day we didn't find any billies until midday, and they were clear crossed, and we ended up making a big long stalk. And, I tell people I'm lucky a lot. And I really feel like a lot of hunting is luck, but you got to make that luck. It's not like I'm like, I'm just wandering around the woods shooting and getting lucky. It's you work hard, and then eventually it's just
something happens in your favor.
Exactly. The animals are not lucky that day because, this goat we really had saw the goats from afar, but we knew there was goats where we were hunting, so we were like, well, we're going to try to find these goats. And those goats laid up there all morning till noon, and finally we're like, we're just going to go after them. So we made a huge, long, probably hour-long stalk, ended up getting above where we thought this goat was just in time. Like he probably within 5 minutes, he got up below us because we couldn't look over the ledge. He was probably within 10 yards of us, but there was a billy up on the hill looking towards us. So we had no idea. And we were both, me and the guide, who was an amazing guy, we were looking at each other like, what are we going to do now? And then all of a sudden, we didn't have to make a decision. It got made for us. And the billy walked out.
Walked up. How far was the shot?
I want to say like 22, 23 yards, I think.
And that's a long poke for a trad bow, even somebody who's really good.
And I'll be honest, I didn't make a perfect shot, but I hit him a little far back. He ran down the hill, and if an animal's still standing, I'm still launching arrows. Yeah. So I ran up to a little knoll, and he stopped about 40 yards, quartering pretty hard away, and I angled one just past his hip into him, and he ran up, and he went up onto a snow bank, got kind of high, and he got on this big ice patch, snow patch, and lost his legs and just slid to the bottom, and he was done. Like it only took me basically a day and a half to get this billy on the ground. But in my mind, if we screwed that stock up, there was enough goats up there that I was going to get plenty of stocks. Like I felt pretty confident I was going to get a good shot. Yeah. That's one good thing about goat hunting, and they're not that weary because there's not that much for predators up there. I mean, there's bears up there.
Fairly not easy to stalk, but they're not like terrain, an antelope.
Yeah, the terrain is what makes it tough just because of some. And where we were was fairly mild. I mean, there were some spots where it wasn't so mild where we were, but where we stalked him was extremely mild for goat country.
Yeah. And then you, so just moving quickly through the Super 10, the sheep. That would probably be a big thing that people would just say, man, how am I going to ever afford a $40,000, sheep hunt somewhere? Yep. But you drew a U tag.
Yep.
In what state?
Nevada.
He told me the story last night, but you drew a U tag in Nevada over the counter and went in and did your homework and killed a ewe over water.
Yep. Well, and I'll just you said over the counter, but it is actually a draw.
Well, a draw. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and you said draw
you didn't buy an out. It wasn't an outfitted hunt.
No, it wasn't.
That's what I mean.
It was a and now I've sent in for it since, and what happened was they made the Nevada Game Parks put this. I think they gave 3 tags, and it just started the year that. And a buddy of mine found out about it and told me about it, and me and him and another guy sent in for it, and 2 of us drew. Of course, the guy that found out about it didn't draw.
Oh, wow.
Now it's only, it's like a 15%. Because more people found out of it. That was the first year, so nobody knew about it, so nobody sent in for it.
You were just on the ball on that one.
I got lucky that he let me in on that, and that was a really fun hunt. Went up there, and it would have been tough with the stick on the ground just because of it's so open and it was real shaly and pretty loud stalking. And I was getting 40 yards easy, but like I said, I had set up a ground blind. And I didn't even think that was going to work, but it ended up working.
Man, and see that's what it is. Just your track record is telling me you just have a way of figuring out how to make it work. And that's what a good hunter does, is just figuring out how to make it work. Your moose, that's another one. People might be like, well, heck, how am I going to afford a $20,000 Yukon moose hunt? Well, you drew a tag in Colorado, a cow tag.
Yep.
And so, when I looked through the pictures of your Super 10, I thought it was awesome because you had a ewe sheep, you had a big old cow elk, which would have been a Shiras. In the lower 48.
Right.
So it's kind of like you. I think it's cool. You worked it and you experienced those hunts.
Yeah.
You experienced, taking these animals, the meat, and I've seen this week that you're not you don't really care about the headgear. Obviously, I know you'd like to kill big critters.
Yep.
But you're just as tickled to take whatever.
Yep. Yeah. No. It's and that's I always I bring Fred Eichler up a lot, and I know he's commercialized a little bit now. I think he's still the same kind of guy, but we can't blame a guy for jumping on the money train. But back when I was watching him, and he had his old videos and stuff, and he was shooting does or cow elk, and actually he's the one that I got the idea for the sheep and the moose. That's what he has. He's got one of his sheep is a ewe, and his Shiras moose is a cow.
Yeah.
And so that's what, and I was like, man, that's awesome. He got to go and hunt, and And,
well, you get the same experience. I mean, like when you killed that sheep, you said that there were big, huge rams standing right beside the ewe that he killed. I mean,
so you could have, you did it.
I could have killed a ram, and I could have honestly on the moose hunt. The moose might have been one of the tougher hunts because on the moose hunt, all I was seeing was big bulls. It was harder to find a cow than it was to find a, and you wouldn't think that, you know what I mean? And a lot of times people don't realize that, if you go with a cow tag, anytime I've ever had a cow elk tag, I've seen nothing but bulls, and the cows are smarter than the bulls. You know what I mean? Honestly, they're in survival mode always.
Yeah.
Bulls are, they sometimes get in the rut, and I'm not saying a big old bull isn't smart, but he can let his guard down, and a cow, I don't think, ever lets their guard down.
That's a good point, yeah.
So, it doesn't take away from the challenge. There's more of them. Yeah. That's the only advantage there is, but sometimes that's a disadvantage. Because if there's
sometimes they're
more
grouped
eyes,
up. Sometimes they're grouped up. The females are going to be grouped up. Brent, any thoughts on the Super 10? Because I want to transition into this hunt because Jake killed a bear this week and we're still after one.
This is the question I got. How did you get to the point to where you thought, well, hey, I think I've got all these animals here. I can do this, and I can have the Super 10. Did somebody say, hey, Jake, look at what you've done here? Or did you start out at the beginning saying, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the Super 10.
Right. No, actually, I was probably about halfway before I thought I could probably get it done, and actually went after it. I mean, I knew about it, always thinking it would be kind of a cool. Honestly, when I was younger, guys like, I read Chuck Adams' book, the Super Slam book, and then Fred went and did it with the recurve, and I was like, man, that is cool, but there's no, I've killed a handful of deer and an antelope and this and that and a bear or whatever. Actually, it was a mountain lion that I'd killed, but I was like, man, that'd be cool. It's kind of a lifetime goal. Like, I can do this. And then as I knocked a couple more off the list, got about halfway done, I was like, hey, I'll just keep, every year I'll try to go on another adventure. And every year, I got my business, so I was able to have a little more free time at certain points, and it's only gotten a little better and better. So it kind of, I always knew about it, but it was maybe always kind of a goal in my head as far as eventually. But when I got 4 or 5 animals, then it was like, all right, I'm going to do this.
Set a goal to do it,
and it kind of went. I'm very goal oriented. Once I set one, it's just.
Well, let me follow that. Let me follow that question up with this one. Was it when you first knew about it, when you first learned about the Super 10, and then you started clicking them off, was it harder than you thought it would be, more of a challenge, or was it easier? Did it come to you like, man, I can't believe this is happening this quick?
At the beginning, it was hard. I went on quite a few. Actually, that's funny because the bear was one of the harder animals to get for me. I had a couple hunts where I didn't see any. Didn't get a shot, and I was bargain hunting. All the places I went were good places. I never had a bad experience. I'm not saying but there just wasn't the mass bears like you see. So once I got that accomplished, it started clicking a little bit more as I went. I mean, it seems kind of, well, I mean, that makes sense, but the first few animals to get were tough, and elk.
When did you complete it?
Last year.
What animal completed the slam?
My bison.
The bison.
I actually shot. It was last year was kind of a crazy year. I shot a mountain goat in September and then a bison in December to finish it.
Yeah.
So
you're 31 years old. That's pretty cool. To me, I always. A guy. The cool thing about hunting in North America is that a guy can find the challenge that is scripted just for him and what he needs to do. I mean, like I'll probably never even attempt to do the Super 10. My goals right now inside of my life are to bear hunt all across this great land and experience all that the bear hunting. I mean, like, and that's a pretty unique challenge. I mean, not many people are trying to do that.
Yep.
But for my world, those are my main goals. Now I'm still doing a lot of other stuff, but because I think sometimes, like, the reason we're having you on this podcast is not to elevate the slam to this thing, because there's a lot of people that are never going to do that,
right.
And that's not. But what I like about what I see and hear inside of you is that you set a goal, you built your business, you built your family, you kind of built your life like pointed in this direction.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of coordination, and it took a lot of. And now I don't know your family and stuff, but I know there's a lot of people that have wrecked their families pursuing goals. And when I hear you talk about your family and wife, like I hear that you've calculated them into the equation.
Yes.
And so it's like you kind of got this thing prioritized, and if you prioritize your life and you get a lot of stuff right, and for me, number one, it is family. I mean, it's like I can't do any of this if I'm sacrificing really what's important in life. But if I build that right, and my wife and I we're a partnership, and I'm supporting her in the things she wants to do, and I'm providing for her, and and my kids are fathered, and I mean, it's like all this stuff is in order.
Yeah.
Then Clay can be gone for 18 days, like I have been this month. And I think a lot of people miss that, Jake, and because there's guys. I was reading a book yesterday. It's a hunting book, and this guy just nonchalantly made a comment that he hunted. It was a guy trying to train a pack of hounds. I'm not going to name the book, and his wife left him just because he hunted too much, and he just said it like it was just like no big deal, and he just moved on. And anyway, I'm a family man, Jake.
Me too. And see, that's what people don't understand. I actually had a guy comment. Here's what I get. I get the comment, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky to get to go, or it'd be nice. When do you work?"
Yeah.
And I don't even. It doesn't honestly bother me, but when I get those comments, I'm like, well. So anyway, I said something about that. Hey, I can't remember what I was doing, but. It's got to be a balance. It's got to be a balance of everything. I spend a ton of time with my family. I spend a ton of time working. I mean, my brothers are a big help to me. When I'm gone, they're taking care of things. They work for me. I can trust them. That works.
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
And like you were saying, I've built every part of my life around this. And people, I drive a $14,000 truck. Not a $50,000 truck. I live in a pretty nice home, but it was just by sheer luck, and it didn't cost me that much. But so I don't even really know what I'm getting at, but there's got to be a balance. You can't spend all day Sunday watching football and expect to, Sunday, if I'm home, me and the family are hiking, or me and the family are going fishing, or, if I'm home, that's what I'm doing. I'm spending my time with my family.
I think what you're trying to say, Jake, is the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately.
Yeah, that's a really good way to say it.
I've been waiting for 28 episodes of this podcast to say that.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. When I'm at home, usually I'm up by 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm doing something, paperwork, or sometimes I'm playing with my little girl because she's awake too.
Sometimes she's doing paperwork.
Yeah. I wish she could. It's just.
Well, what I'm here, I think it's really clear what you are saying, and what we're seeing is that you work hard for this. I mean, you're not a rich boy that just gets to do what he wants and has the money to go. I mean, you're working for this stuff, and that's what's cool. And that, I guess, is probably surprising, and would be to a lot of people, is that these things are doable if it's what you want to do. But And I'm not suggesting that everybody should do it. I mean,
me neither, because I don't want all the competition.
Yeah.
You know?
Leave the U tags for Jake.
That's right. I got to stop talking about that stuff because people are definitely getting more involved in that. Because, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Most of the people that actually say that you're so lucky, they don't even hunt deer when they can. I mean, in their backyard. So it's just a thought.
Yeah.
You know, and they romanticize hunting. They don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people romanticize hunting, and a lot of people bear hunting. And I'm not saying bear hunting is easy. That is not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying it's more laid back than like a backpack elk hunt when you are grinding every day, all day.
Yeah.
And you're eating your mountain house in the tent, going, "What am I doing up here? This is insane. I would rather go back to work."
Yeah. It's tough.
I mean, some of the vacations, and I use the air quotes on that, that I take are not vacations. I mean, I'm working harder.
When I come back from some hunts, I tell my wife, because, the perception is you've been out for a week doing something you're passionate about.
Exactly.
And I say, I feel like I've been in a war.
I'm exhausted.
Now it's time to get rested up. But
what did I say, when we left the lodge this while ago to come over here to do this? I said, man, I'd be glad to get back to work so I can get some rest.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we're at we've got about 10 minutes here, and I want to just briefly I got to go kill a bear. This is the sixth day of my hunt. We got to leave tonight. But I want to talk just real briefly about this hunt, and I'm not even going to get into my side of it. I'll do that later. But you killed a bear on the first day.
Well, I'm not very picky. For me, opportunity is my window. And to be honest, I've killed a lot of big animals that way. And I've killed some small ones. And my bear was just an average bear. Just, we snuck up on it, and the guide was back and forth. "Oh, shoot it." "Man, I don't know. He's not very big. You shoot it." I don't know. He was.
Yeah. And you were like, let me help you make that decision.
For me, it's just I love to hunt, and I've killed some big bears. I killed I think we weighed that one I killed last year. He was like 350, 360. Not bear. A huge skull. Like, I think he was like 18 and 3/4, 18 and 5/8. I don't know. My taxidermist measured it, whatever. But I'm not a trophy hunter. I like to kill big animals, mature animals, but I don't have to for a hunt to go to be successful. For me, this bear's going to eat really good, and I love bear meat.
I loved, I didn't know you at all coming into this hunt, and first thing you said, and really before you even knew who I was and what my mission inside of, hunting is, you said, "Man, I'm here for the meat."
Yeah.
You truly like bear meat.
Yeah, I do. It's funny because not very many people go bear hunting for the meat.
Right.
It's kind of funny. It's actually terrible because if they knew what they were missing out on, I mean, that ossobuco, I can't wait to make that. And
it was incredible.
That's awesome.
There's going to be like 8 families that were represented at the camp over there, or that are here in camp now, that's going to be making that recipe.
Bears are in trouble.
I'm telling you, man.
Ossobuco. When we've been seeing bears cross the road, we'd be like, "There goes 2 ossobucos."
Exactly.
They make ossobuco out of the forearm of any critter, but for bear.
Bear in a slow cooker is honestly one of my favorite of all time. I mean, I love bear meat, and my wife loves it. I mean, I'm a meat hunter. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't like to hunt for big animals, and I'm not going to say that I wouldn't, after a few more bears past the bear I shot. But I'm plumb happy.
But now that it's happened, you're glad you did.
Because
because we've struggled. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
And it's not that we hadn't struggled. There's 2 other myself and another guy are bow hunters. So there are 3 bow hunters in camp. And here it is, the 6th day. And now I have been close to a couple of smaller bears that, were within trad bow range. And then Cody has it's been a miracle that he's not killed a bear.
Yeah, he can shoot a long ways too, and the wind has just been destroying. And these bears, they're not stupid. They're not giving anybody any second chances.
None.
If they catch just a slight movement, which is rare, I think, or not rare. I shouldn't say it because this is my first spot in stock, but.
Well, what Jeff said, we described it in another podcast. We're seeing grizzly. I mean, you guys saw a 8-foot-plus mountain grizzly yesterday in a place that we've been stalking bears, crawling around on the edge of these fields on our hands and knees for the last 4 days. So these bears are on edge. There's a high population of black bears and a very high population of grizzly. And so these bears' heads are on a swivel. So a lot of times when they're spooking from us on a stalk, where in different places that stalk probably would have killed 80% of the bears in North America. Here they haven't. But the main thing that's killed us has been the wind.
Yeah,
I mean,
the wind's been terrible.
We have not lacked for seeing super bears every single day.
Yeah.
But man, we've had. I mean, I've been like on the perfect stalk. I mean, like everything was right, and then the wind just dumps you in the back of the neck. The bear just skirts off. They're done. But you just give us like a 3-minute version of your hunt.
Okay. I honestly didn't even see the bear. The guide, Ryan, we were cruising down the road, and actually we had just, it was the very first, I mean, we flew in, drove in, grabbed our stuff, and went out, and we had saw one bear that was a really nice bear, and he caught our wind, or actually, well, anyway, we had to drive past him, and we're going to come back after him. Drove down the road a ways, and I didn't even know what was going on. He drove by. I could tell he might have saw something, and he pulled off to the road, and we just snuck back. We had just driven past the clear cut, and we snuck back, and then I could see a bear milling around. So we got in the ditch, and it was that deep, deep ditch, and then it came up to where the clear cut was, and worked to where we were in line with it, and just sat there and watched it. I mean, I want to say we were probably there for a half hour watching it mill around, and it was probably only out there about 30 yards, but it was kind of easing towards us, and he was going back and forth. Oh, it's not huge, but it's all right. Well, maybe it's a sow. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a. He goes, you can shoot it if you want. He goes, but we got 6 days. It's up to you. And, well, that's all I needed. So I just told him, I said, if it comes to under 20 yards, I'm going to shoot it. And, all right. So, and it did. It worked around this big stump, and I want to say it was probably 15 yards, and was angling by, and it was getting close to dark. Shot, got a complete pass through it, ran off. It kind of moved off. I almost shot another arrow at it, but it wasn't moving very fast, and we thought, it's done. And we ended up looking at the arrow, and it looked like good blood. I felt like the shot was a little high, but anyway, it kind of went off and got under a big branch, and we thought, well, it's going to die there. We saw good blood. I mean, it just looked like it was done. It didn't bail off into the trees. So our decision was to get in the truck and go back and see if we could get on that other, see if that other bear was there.
You had another hunter with you.
Yeah, Cody was with us, so we were going to go check that out and let this bear go, die, so we didn't run into having it charge us or whatever. Yeah. And so we did that, came back, and now it's getting pretty dark, and we walked over to where it had been, and there's no bear. I was like, oh, man, I know better than to not try to put another arrow into a bear. And I was kind of kicking myself, and I don't know what I was not seeing. Ryan and Cody were behind me, and Ryan was over here, and he saw the bear walking away from us when we walked in, and I guess he said that, but I didn't hear him. So I'm over there looking under this tree, and he kind of walks over, and he's like, it was going over there. I went, oh, no, it's still alive. So anyway, we just start kind of walking along, and he was right here beside me walking, and something jumped up like 5 feet away from us, and kind of you could hear it clawing the tree. And it was right there, and he's like, it's right here. And so I came around the tree and just put one right through its boiler.
Got a second arrow in it.
And it climbed up the tree just a little bit and then fell off and died right there.
Your hunt was over on the first day.
My hunt was over, and for me it's not a big bear, but that really wasn't what I was here for. So
well, the thing about traditional archery is that the hunt really does become about opportunity, and that's what it has been lacking for me here so far. Is that you're hunting for a chance.
Yep.
That's within range. That's within the limitations of the self-imposed limitations that you've chosen for the hunt, which we're hunting with trad bows. But man, well, congratulations on the bear, and it's been awesome getting to hang out with you in camp this week. And,
you too, man.
Inspiring stories about the Super 10, and it was fun to shoot with you out here. And
it's been a great week. I've had a ton of fun. I wish Aaron could have come up with us, but it worked out good for me.
Yeah. Brent, closing concluders.
Well, you guys are all, I'm a bow hunter, but I don't do the trad stuff, but I enjoy watching you guys set goals and practice. You practice more than anybody doing anything that I've seen. I mean, you guys are always shooting to the point that it's hard for me to nap at times.
Because you hear thump thump.
Yeah, and
thump,
then what I listen for is I hear the string, and then I hear the thump. But my favorite one is when I hear the string and I don't hear the thump, because I know somebody's
shot in the grass.
Somebody's got to crawl over the fence and go find an arrow. But it's fun, man. It's a unique experience following somebody around with a camera and watching them do this, because this ain't easy.
It ain't easy. Well,
lots of fun. Good job.
Excellent. Jake. Well, that's good. We're going to close down right here at an hour. Thanks for checking out the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast, and keep the wild places wild, because that's where the bears live.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24th, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.